Truck System Technologies was founded in 2010, offering an affordable, reliable TPMS solution to an aftermarket and retrofit niche in the recreational vehicle market. In 2017, TST was acquired by Pressure Systems International. PSI is the global leader of automatic tire inflation systems for the commercial vehicle market for 18-wheelers as you know them. After the acquisition, PSI re-engineered TST's TPMS product to meet the grueling standards of the commercial vehicle market and also to meet the requirements to become an original equipment manufacturer, or OEM, factory-installed component in the RV market. In early 2018, Forest River began testing TST's TPMS system, and after over a year of scrutiny, TST received the approval stamp by Forest River and began talking to the various production lines within Forest River. TST is very proud to be the RV industry's first TPMS at the OEM level and is the only tire pressure monitoring system approved for use on OEM factory installation on every line at Forest River and Thor. TST, the RV industry's only standard OEM TPMS.
Thank you for being our sponsors, and we are so excited to have Lippert's and Dr. Angie Sokol here with us today, and she is going to be talking about business as a force of good and Lippert's journey of business and social impact. And she is the director of Lippert's Academy for Leadership. And so with that, I am going to toss it over to Dr. Sokol to get us started.
Well, hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm so excited to be here. This is a great opportunity for me to talk to you a little bit about what we're doing at the Academy and just a little bit of background. I'll start off and just tell you a little bit about myself. First of all, you can hear me okay, right? Because we were having a little bit of trouble with our volume earlier, so I just want to make sure. If you want to take your, if you're in a noisy background or whatever, you can keep your mute on, but if not, so that we can interact, you can take your mute off and we can have conversation during this. Or if you want to type in the chat box while I'm doing this, that's great too. So Monica's going to monitor the chat box for me. So let me just give you a little bit of background about me. So I put together a very busy slide. What this slide really talks about is I really only had 4 jobs or 4 opportunities, if you will, in my career. I worked for General Motors for about 20 years in Detroit. I worked for Advanced Management Services doing consulting pretty much all over the world. Worked at Thor Motor Coach and now at Lippert. And when I started trying to figure out how do I talk about myself here, in terms of my background, what I realized was I have had a lot of experiences with different company cultures. And what I also, during putting this together, what I also realized was I think I only worked with companies who had blue logos because it was like everybody's logo is navy blue. But anyway, that's what I'm really trying to portray here is that I've really had great opportunity to look at company cultures, and some were fabulous and some were not so fabulous. So what I want to talk about today is really a couple things. I want to discuss the concept of business as a force for good. I want to share a framework with you to help you change your culture. And it's a very simple framework, but I'll talk in a little bit more detail about it. Then I want to talk about Lippert's journey. And the goal here is not really to focus on Lippert per se. We still have a lot of work to do. We're not where we need to be, but we're working on it. And so I just kind of want to share where we've been and what our journey has been and what we've done. And then I'll talk a little bit about our academy and how we came to be and what we're focusing on there. So with that, let me just talk for a minute about business as a force for good. How many of you work in an environment where people talk about each other when they're not present? I'm looking for my chat box because I know you're probably talking to me.
And sometimes, yes, there's a little bit of chat in there. And I know we've had some people just say, like, put a 1 in the chat if you agree with this or something like that. And so
yeah, that's fine. Or I can see some of your faces too. So I think it's pretty prevalent. I did a seminar last night, as a matter of fact, as I was kind of preparing for this. And I asked my class, how many of you work in organizations where people talk about each other when they're not around, right? And every single person in my class said, I do, right? It's a lot of backbiting goes on in organizations. How many of you work in an environment where the language is probably inappropriate, or the tone is probably inappropriate, right? How a leader talks to their subordinate. Can you relate to that? Because I feel like, through my journey, particularly in manufacturing, out on the production floor, again, I worked at General Motors for, almost 20 years, and then, in the RV industry as well. And the F-bomb is pretty prevalent, right? I hear it all the time, and it's common language. It's not like it slipped out most of the time. It's part of the dialogue. So, how we treat people really makes a toxic environment when we act like that. So those are kind of the things I want to focus on here. What if we could change all of that? What if we created a culture where everyone, I don't want to say everyone loved each other, but honestly, that we treat each other with respect. We talk to each other without a tone or an edge in everything that we say. We refrain from talking about other people, but rather focus on communicating with each other. So those are kind of that when we talk about culture, businesses are made up of people. As a matter of fact, in 2019, the Business Roundtable redefined the purpose of a corporation. Business Roundtable is a bunch of CEOs in the United States that come together really as a force for good. But they talked about changing the shift from shareholder value, which is about the bottom line, right? Driving money, to stakeholder value. When we talk about stakeholder, and this is what always comes to mind for me, is when I lived in Michigan, and I know the same thing happened in the RV industry, but when I lived in Michigan in 2008, Ford closed their Woodhaven plant. There was a lot of negative things that were going on at that time. And when they closed that plant, there were for every employee that was let go or lost their job, 6 other people in the community lost their job too. So you don't need as many people to mow yards. You don't need as many banks. You don't need as many teachers. You don't need as many people at your supplier places. So we have a stake in how we do our business. And I think if we focus on business as a force for good, that makes everything better. And I'll talk more about that. But if your sole purpose is to ignite the hearts and minds of your organization, and you do that by building core values, you develop your leaders, you build that culture where people want to come to work every day. I know in my case, it's like my colleagues are my friends. Like these are people that I work with day in and day out, and they make it fun. They make it delightful to be there, right? I don't go in dreading going to work. Can you imagine if we aligned people and business together to be a force for good in the world? Let me talk to you a little bit about a cultural framework. And again, this is a very simple concept, but there's a lot that goes into it. So I'll try to share the detail behind that as well. So the concept is, if you want to change your culture, focus on top down, bottom up, and culturally relevant. So what do I mean by that? Top down, your leadership has to own it. We say extreme ownership, and I've had some recent experiences where I can say extreme ownership, but some leadership don't understand what we mean by that. And you can't just do a training and expect people to get it, right? And I've heard that for years. Oh, we told them they should know. Well, it doesn't work like that. Like, you tell them, and then you tell them, and then you tell them, and you show them, and you remind them, right? So when I talk about communication, it is about, first of all, your leadership has to own it. They have to understand it. They have to live it. And it's not a program, right? It's a behavior. It's how you treat people. So, but you have to commit to it, that you're going to, get on board with it. Communicate it. Define a clear vision, mission, and core values. And I'll talk about this a little bit later, but some of probably the most prevalent work I'm doing right now with the Academy for Leadership is working with companies on developing their core values. And what does that mean? Just worked with a company whose core value was, we're going to communicate with candor and transparency. That was their core value. But their floor level people are like, what's candor mean? What do you mean by transparency? Like, how does that apply to me, right? So we go in then and do training around what is the vision, what is the mission, what is the core values. For 20 years, so I also teach at universities, and for the last 20 years teaching at universities, my very opening line with my class, because I teach a strategic management class, is, how many of you have a vision statement where you work? And of course they all raise their hand. Or how many of you have a business plan? Everybody raises their hand. Okay, how many of you can recite your vision or mission without looking? You know how many people I can get to do that? Maybe 2, and they're usually QS certified, so they have to have it on the back of their badge, right? So, but if people don't know where you're going, how do you know when you get there? So clear vision, mission, and developed core values. And then another really, really important piece of this is a commitment to resources. So just as an example, I have seen organizations that hire a training person, so they're committed to resources, right? But the floor is too busy to do any training. So you may commit to the resources, but you got to commit to the time. It's an investment in your people. You got to have support systems in place to support people through this. And I'm going to share with you how we did that. But bottom up is engagement from your floor, engagement from the masses in the organization. Get them engaged. And honestly, I feel like through doing a lot of different training courses that in a lot of organizations, supervisors don't even know their employees' names, let alone engagement. So it's really important that you get them involved. Get them involved in decisions around their own work setup, how they operate, teach them tools, and then allow them to do that. Or rearrange their workplace. Train them on the core values. And one of my colleagues put it like this, and it just really resonated with me. But training on core values, he said, we have core values in our own family. And he said, we always start with, in this family, we do this. We call each other when we're going to be late. In this family, we do this, right? And that's really resonated with me as I work with companies, because you're a work family. You spend more time with your colleagues than you do your own children, right? Most of the time. So if you just think about how do you want to operate as a team, and then hold each other accountable to that. Get people involved in community service opportunities. So like I mentioned earlier, it's about your stakeholders, not just your stockholders. And your community are your stakeholders. They have a vested interest in you being successful in that community, right? Not just because of the tax base, but because of a whole lot of other things. So get people connected with those programs. There's a lot of research out there that says people are more engaged in organizations when their leadership is involved in community. And it gives them the opportunity to get involved in community. So I'll give you some more examples of that, but get them programs that people can feel connected to each other, connected to the company. And then culturally relevant is really reflective of your leadership. So if your leaders drop the F-bomb in every other sentence, so do the workers, right? I mean, it's accepted, that's a behavior. So culture is reflective of your leadership, and what you have to do is start with yourself. So you have to model the behavior. You have to make a commitment to model the behavior. So I want you to think about what are your core values? Let me give you a definition. A value is a belief that guides your choices and actions. A belief that guides your choices and actions. So in a business context, a core value is the highest values that guide the company, that guide the employees, that guide the brand. It's a message, and I hear this at Lippert a lot, is someone will say, hey, I have a person that needs a job, and a lot of the leadership will say, will they fit in with this organization? Like there's a core value that we expect people to be positive. We expect people, like, there's some certain leadership behaviors that we expect from people. So having those core values and aligning with the organization is extremely important. We actually had a story of someone who decided to leave our organization because she said, I don't really like people and I don't really want to do this. So it's like, you have to align with the organization and their core values. So what I'd like for you to do is take a few minutes and jot down just a couple of core values, your own core values. What drives you? What values or beliefs guide your choices and actions? And then I'm going to ask a couple of you to share.
So while people are writing those down, there were a couple comments in the chat. Nancy says, our company encourages all employees to submit a request to use company time for volunteer work. We are given 2 hours out of a workday and we are paid for that time. Susan sharing her homework with the whole group instead of jotting it down on a piece of paper.
That's okay.
Let's see. And then someone else had said, I think this was on your previous slide, I preach this and have for years and seldom find support from upper management or staff. How do you get the executives to believe? So I don't know if that's something that you're going to cover as well. So
okay, good. I appreciate your comments. So
just we got some preemptive things in the chat also. I think
Monica, I'm having a little bit of trouble hearing you. I don't know if anybody else is, but
I don't know what's going on with my sound.
No, I can hear you fine.
Okay, it's probably me. It might just be my computer.
I was just going to say one person I think is preemptively trying not to get called on and put her answers: relationship, authenticity, and generosity. So maybe to keep
excellent. So here's the thing, like, it's not important that I know what your core values are at this point, but it is important that you know. that you know what drives you, and whether you align with your organization in your current company culture. Do you align? Because if there's a gap, there's an opportunity, right, to change that. If you would, if you feel comfortable, and if you don't feel comfortable, that's okay, but just go ahead and type your core values into the chat box so that we can kind of see what everybody's coming up with, because it's kind of fun to share what different people think, and you know, there's usually some common ones that, you know, some things that we have in common that drive that. So while you're typing, I'm going to keep moving here because I don't want your coffee to get cold. So I want to talk a little bit about Lippert's journey. And again, I don't want to make this about Lippert. This could be any company, any case study. It just so happens that this is the journey that we've been on. And I think it's valuable to share, you know, the ups and downs of implementing culture improvement. So all I really want to say about this is it's not fast. It doesn't happen overnight. And this is a concept of water the bamboo. And the thought is, you know, you plant the seed, you till the soil. I grew up on a farm, so I can really relate to this, but you know, plant the seed, you till the soil, you water the bamboo, you nurture it, you talk to it. I grew up on a tomato farm, and we always joked about you have to talk to the tomato plants to make them grow. So, you know, you just basically have to nurture that, and it may take years. In this story, it talks about the bamboo, you know, it took 6 or 7 years before it grew, and then it just grew overnight. And I think that's what happens with our people a lot of times. If you take the time to develop them, they will grow into something amazing. And your leadership is really the foundation of this. So your leadership and culture development is the foundation for all of this. And if you want your business to grow and develop, you need to focus on your people and have value your people, basically. And then that will have impact. So think of it this way. If you treat your people nice, just be kind. If you and not like talking to them with tone and all that kind of thing, and talk to them about business expectations, hold them accountable. People want to be held accountable. They just want to be treated like they're part of the family. So if you do all of those things, communicate with them, treat them kind, give them opportunity to make community impact, all of those things are going to drive your business because they're going to feel connected. I got to move some boxes around here because I can't see my slide. Let me just talk to you a little bit about our journey. And this has been going on for, 7 or 8 years. We had really high turnover, like 120 something. I forget the exact number, but it was 128% or something like that. I just heard this in a meeting this morning too. So it's like 128% turnover when we started this. That's expensive. Like it costs a lot of money to find employees and retrain and do all that. So high turnover, low employee morale. And so we said, let's start tracking our attrition and see if we can improve that, because you improve what you measure. So we start tracking attrition, and then we look at some small capital investments. Are our bathrooms clean? Could we put some paint on the wall to make it a brighter place? And for some reason, plant bathrooms are always like, do I want to go in there kind of thing, so it sounds like such a small thing, but it makes an impact on people and whether you want to come to work, right? So we made small capital investments for improvements, having break rooms for employees, a place for them to relax on their break. we developed our core values, and I think that this is really kind of the center of everything. Core values are really, how we're going to operate as a team. In this family, we do what? We introduce community involvement, and not just employees doing community involvement, but we actually have a program where all of our leaders have service hours. So we are all involved in the community in some way. You have a lot of latitude and creativity of how you want to get that done, which I love. I'm having a little, just as a side note, but I'm doing this little thing called Art and Eat in July. I've invited like 15 women to come to my house, and we're going to weave cots for the homeless out of paper bags out of plastic bags that you get at the grocery store. So I've emailed everyone and said, save all of your bags. And of course, everybody responds back with, what are we doing? Like, what kind of project do you have us involved with now? But they're excited about it. And it's a way to give back. It's a way to have fun. So, we do lots of different kinds of things in terms of community service, but, that's just one idea. So getting your service hours does not have to be, I got to take time out away from my family or something like that. It can be totally how you want to do it. So I talked about core values training. One thing that that Jason Lippert is doing is listening sessions. So he makes it a point. I heard him say that he spends several hours a week at plants at different locations, just listening to people. What are we doing well? What could we do even better? Listening to what people have to say. And the ironic thing is, most people talk about what we're doing really well now. It goes kind of from the negative to the positive. When you breed that positive talk in your organization, then people feel free to share those positive things. We're developing culture, and I'll talk more about that. I've got a couple slides that talk about what we're doing in terms of support for our culture development. We've developed leadership qualities and behaviors, so expectations around how leaders are expected to show up at work and at home. We celebrate and recognize a lot. As a matter of fact, I've only been in this role since December, and there is so much positive energy that I finally said to someone, is this for real? Like, are they just doing this because I'm new? Because I've never worked for an organization that literally yesterday I got more accolade emails than I did work-related emails, because people are giving shout outs to people for what a great job they're doing. And it's really invigorating to work in an organization like that. We are focusing on onboarding as well. Onboarding in terms of having a plan when someone comes in, making sure they know the basics, making sure they know how to use the technology, making them feel welcome, introducing them to as many team members as possible so they have resources to go to. So we have a pretty thorough onboarding program. And most recently, we just hired someone to focus on health and wellness. So we're working with employees on getting their health to where it needs to be, where they think it should be. So it's a resource on staff that helps employees with health and wellness, education, support, those kinds of things. So again, it's all about extreme ownership. It's all about having your leadership committed at the top. And if you do that, everything else just kind of falls into place. People tend to be more innovative. Their health is better. Their relationships are better. You have fewer safety issues. Your quality goes up. So these are just like byproducts of treating people like family. This is our vision, mission, core values, leadership qualities, and our cultural perspective. So, you have to develop these yourself, but for us, our vision is business as a force for good. What can we do to align our employees with our business and our business with our community? so I won't go through, read all of these to you, but I will say that everything we do is centered around the things on this page. So as an example with core values, and I mentioned earlier that sometimes I think you can talk to people about core values and you can say that your core value is caring about people, but if you're not modeling it and in your plants showing people that you care about them, it's just words on a page. So it's the modeling of all of this that happens. It's posted everywhere. It's on our whiteboards. We have like some plants say this week is our focus on caring about people. This week is our focus on having a positive attitude. What can we do today to drive that core value? So, it's got to be constantly out there and integrated. So for our organization, we have 5 cornerstones that we really focus on: core values, leadership qualities, personal and professional growth, high performance leadership, and community impact. So those are really the things that we are driving to make a positive culture. I'm going to go out on a limb here and see if we can actually show a video and you can actually hear it. Fingers crossed, we'll see what happens. Let's see. Okay, Monica, you might have to help me here. So do I have to stop sharing my PowerPoint in order to share the?
You can you're going to open it directly from the link. You can open the link and then you should be able to share that screen, or it should be fine. Let's see. Click on, did you open the link?
No, hold on a second.
Okay.
Okay, we'll see if this works. So this is Lou Holtz, which I know everybody in this area loves Lou Holtz. I have always admired and followed Lou Holtz, and he just gave his perspective on leadership, and it was so much in alignment with what we're trying to do that I just thought I'd share it. It's only like 4 minutes long, and I'll cut it off here at the end, but can you hear?
No. When you did the screen share, did you click that button in the lower corner?
All right, let me try this again.
All right. I don't know if you can hear me. Angie, when you shared your screen, did you click the little the button in the corner of share screen? All right, so stop sharing. We'll try this.
Okay, stop sharing.
And then so go back to share screen.
Mm-hmm.
And then there should be a little in the box that pops up to tell you which window there's a little box in the lower left hand that you click that says share computer sound or something like that.
Okay, I can't find that. I'll tell you what, I'm just going to keep moving and on this one. So I'll give you the.
Not our friend today. Like, I don't know. I'm sorry.
No problem. But I'll give you the synopsis of what Lou says here. But I think I have to share my screen again here. So. Okay, it's not giving me the dialog box now, so.
To share your screen?
Hold on a sec, I think, there we go. It just says when I try to share my screen, it just says 1 participant at a time or something. Oh, here we go.
All right.
I'm back.
There you go.
Don't you love technology?
Not today.
You know, and the worst part is I've used all kinds of different technologies, and I swear every single time I get in a presentation, it's a different button in a different spot. So I apologize.
No, you're good.
So basically in the video, what Lou talks about is that you have to have a vision. And that's why I said I felt like we're pretty aligned with what he was saying. You have to have a vision of where you want to go. You have to have a plan of how to get there. You need to lead by example. Hold your people accountable for the choices that they make, right? So I really like what he says here, because being kind to people is not about being soft. It is not about you just have to be nice to people all the time, right? I mean, you always want to be kind to someone, but you still have to hold them accountable. You still have to get your work done. And what he talks about around holding people accountable, they're the ones that make the choice, right? You support the environment in which they work. And then the last thing he says is define your core values. And his core values are do the right thing, be the best version of you, and care about one another. So I really liked what he said with this, because I think it really aligns with what we're trying to do as well. This is I'll say our support system for how we're making this happen. When I said that you have to commit to resources, Jason Lippert has committed. We have leadership development people assigned to each business unit. We also have a personal and professional development person who reports to that leadership development, but they focus on the people in the plants, colleagues, whatever, but they do a lot of coaching. They work through what we call the Dream Achiever program to help people reach their goals. We also have a corporate training unit that focuses internally, our internal training, mostly focuses right now on training that enterprise training that everyone would need, but getting more into that individual training development kinds of classes. We have a corporate and community impact person, or more than a person, but a group. And they focus really on community efforts, and they focus on helping leaders with their service hours and making the opportunity for people to connect with the community. And then we have the Academy for Leadership, which is totally external facing. So I have the Leadership Academy, and we work with other companies on the outside of Lippert to help them in their journey. So when I talk about, top down, bottom up, culturally relevant, we'll work with companies based on where they are in their journey. So that's a little bit about what we're doing with the Academy. I pulled this from my email from yesterday. And this is just different people, sharing accolades to others in the organization. And I probably get more from Jason Lippert than anyone else. So I just think these are awesome. When you work in an environment where everyone is pulling each other up all the time, it just makes you want to pull other people up, right? To come alongside of people and help them in their journey. So I'm not going to read through these, but I do think that it's representative of the culture that, we're trying to achieve and even better. So I mentioned earlier, and you talked about your core values, it really all starts with you. You can change it. So the next time someone comes to you to start gossiping, to start backbiting with someone in the organization, say to yourself, is it true? Is it good? Is it useful? If it's not, and it's just gossip, stop it. You be the role model. You can change it. Okay. I've just got 2 more slides, or 3 maybe. I'm going to share with you a little bit about what we do in the Academy, just so you kind of have a flavor of the Lippert Academy for Leadership. I think how this all started was we had, Jason had so many people calling him or reaching out to him on LinkedIn to say, we want the recipe to the secret sauce. We want to know how you're doing this, right? How did you turn attrition from 130 or 128% to 29, 28? It's in the high 20s right now. And again, we still got room to go, right? But that's pretty impressive. And so people are constantly calling him saying, how do you do this? So he put together the Lippert Academy for Leadership, which is really kind of a consulting arm. And what we're doing is going out to companies to help them be a business as a force for good. So we're really helping people become the best version of themselves so that they can help their company become the best version of itself. This is kind of the model that we use internally, but we're using the same model externally as well. So I would say that my role is trainer, coach, trusted advisor. Trainer meaning that when we have, we work with companies and they want core values training, or they want help in developing their core values. We do executive coaching, so we can do one-on-one coaching, team coaching, help you with team building. Trusted advisor is really more of a consulting from my perspective. Like internally, trusted advisor is where people will confide in their leaders, but we're not technically on site with you. So we can do more consulting around that, but helping you reach your goals. So I'll just give you one example. I had a new leader in HR, and I have an HR background. So new leader in HR called me and he's like, Angie, can you help me? Like, I gotta implement all these programs and I've never done this before and I'm not sure what to do. So just working with him as executive coaching and some consulting to help him put programs together and that sort of thing. So that just gives you an idea. These are our services. So if I put it into buckets, we do business consulting, training, keynote speaking. So if you have an opportunity for us to speak about culture or whatever, we're always, happy to get the good word out. We'll do facilitating. So if you need an outside person to help you kind of go through your vision, mission, business plan stuff, or we've got some cost reduction programs and stuff like that. Assessments, executive coaching. So I'm just trying to give you a flavor. I'm not trying to give you all the detail about what we do, because really every program is customized to wherever you are in your journey. So it's not just like a standard plate of, here's what we do. But if you do want more information, please contact me. You can also check out our podcast. We have some leadership podcasts, and we're in season 6 right now, and we're talking about leadership in the trenches. And it's a lot of our leadership directors, leadership development directors, talking about experiences in the trenches, in the plants, what they're doing, and give some recommendations. So if you get the opportunity. And then I'm going to put one more plug in, and then I'm done. We have there is a leadership conference that's happening in Mount Clemens, Michigan in May. And our very own Vice President, Dr. Amber Sulking, is one of the big speakers, and we're pretty excited about it. And you can join in person, virtually, on demand. And we wanted to share our discount code with you so that if you would like to sign up for the Leadership Summit, we would love it. It's all about taking time for you personally, professionally, to develop yourself so that you can be the best version of yourself. So that's really what this whole thing is about. If you use our discount code, you'll get $100 off. So feel free to do that. You can just sign up on the website. It's called thepurposesummit.com. So use our discount code there. And that's it. So thank you. I really appreciate your time and attention. you know, if you want to start your own cultural journey or just have a conversation or whatever, please feel free to reach out. And I'll put my name and number back up there. So thank you.
Thank you, Angie. This has been really great to hear about your journey. And I think that the retention numbers, I mean, if anything's going to stick in someone's mind, you know, they're do good because it feels good, but there's also this bottom line impact. And I think that's what's, you know, sometimes helps to go back to one of those questions earlier, like how, excuse me, sorry, how do you get these leaders on board? And there is an absolute bottom line impact of having a positive culture, of doing good in the community. And that's why you see these changes, like from the business roundtable and the like. So it's really great, the example that you all are setting, as well as offering the resources for others to follow you on this journey. Yeah. So let's see, we do have some good comments here. I don't know if there's any questions. Does anyone have any questions for Angie? You can take it off mute or put them in the chat. A lot of thank yous, great information. I think this is someone, I think it's Becky Willis, it's B Willis. I maybe miss not knowing the first name. It's been an incredible journey to be a part of. I barely recognize Lippert as the same company I started with 16 years ago. We can't just say it, we have to do it. Everyone matters and we're all accountable. I mean, that's kind of what you were talking about, that confirmation of what you guys are doing. Looks like,
so, you know, one thing I didn't talk a lot about today is we do have a whole, you know, the connection with the community, and we have programs set up and that sort of thing. And if you want to learn more about those programs, we can do that through the Academy as well. So just hook you up with, you know, the people who are setting up those programs, and Michaela, actually, she's on the board. So we can hook you up and get you going on that if you're interested.
Yeah, she spent this week doing your volunteer week, right? Like you guys have been out in the community this week doing a ton of awesome work. All right. Elizabeth Stackhouse says community service hours for our staff would align so well with our company's core values, but issues like time commitment and possibly lack of interest means management doesn't think it would be feasible to implement. What would you recommend are starting points to get people interested in investing that time in community service?
Well, the reason I have like 5 things in my head at once, right? Because there's like, I'm trying to pick the best one, but you know, just give them the opportunity, make those connections. So when I talked a little bit about making cots for the homeless, it was just an idea that somebody brought to me. And so I watched a YouTube video to learn how to do it and stuff like that. But I think in our heads, a lot of times we always think, well, you know, I work so many hours and I don't have time for my family as it is, that I don't want to go do one more thing. And what I love about the connections that have been made is, first of all, your team is stronger, because when people do it together, and I think Michaela will tell you after this week, like business units go pack food for the community together, and it's fun. It's like, that's a team building exercise, whether you realize it or not, right? And then you have people who say, I don't want to do it on your time, I want to do it on my time. And we don't dictate that. It's like, if you are doing community service on your own time, we just log it so that we know, you know, we know what we're doing with hours. But the more you're encouraged to do it, the more you want to get involved with it. Like, it's hard to explain, but it's like the momentum is, just get it going, right? Have a food drive, do something good, and then do something else good, and then do something else good. And it's fun. So people will get on board. Your leadership has to support it though. I'll give you an example of, I worked in one organization, we did a food drive, which was great, but the food drive idea came from one of the employees. So the leadership said, okay, we'll have a food drive. but it was one person coordinating and pushing it out, but the rest of the leadership wasn't involved, right? So you have people with big hearts who want to help, but if it's not that coordinated, like leadership gets involved and leadership's enthusiastic about it and they're communicating, like I talked about earlier, then it turns into like the program of the month, right? So you have to rally around your community service, measure it, you improve what you measure. So those are all the 5 things that I had in my mind.
Absolutely. And so that's really helpful. And Elizabeth, thank you for the feedback. Those are great things to think about. All right, last call for questions. Any other questions, comments from the group? All right, well, I want to thank TST, Truck System Technologies, for being our sponsor for both March and April, able to make these coffee, lunch, and learns happen. Thank you to, and Lippert's one of our platinum sponsors for the RV Women's Alliance in general. So we are very grateful for your support, not only today, providing this great information and great presentation, but also your ongoing support to our organization. It means the world to us and makes things like this possible.
Good.
So thank you. I hope everyone has a fantastic weekend. It is Friday. Get out and do some good, and we'll see you back here next Friday.
Thanks, everyone.